Hi folk, Rowan here again. Good to see you again. I just wanted to cover just a little bit on maybe the macro view of what's happening in the world at the moment. I have a bit of a discussion about the big picture, as it were, as you say, because it's true for everything, isn't it? Whenever we focus on one thing, we know that we're not focusing on everything. It's one part of a larger, bigger puzzle. So I just want to just generally have a chat. Well, nothing's scripted. I'm just going to talk. Now, it's interesting. This year is so fascinating. I know that everyone can see this in the world. Hopefully, I would imagine. Whenever, whoever you are, you know, whatever you believe, whether you're right into politics or whether you're are not interested in politics, or whether you're just in the background, just sort of observing the world as a whole, well, I think pretty much that people can see, especially this year, that the world is quite crazy and some big things are going down. Now, we've got obviously in Melbourne here, we have Dan Andrews, and everyone's focusing on this dictator Dan, making all these rules and following this because they're scared of a virus. And then you've got the other side of people where generally people are in fear because like there's a deadly virus, or that's the way they portray it at the very least. And then we've got people that don't believe it whatsoever and just saying it's a scam. But then we've also got what's happening in America. And you Americans, anyone watching this from America, would know this firsthand. Now, when we look whatever we believe and wherever we are this year, people are looking at the world and just saying, what on earth is happening? They've got to be. It's this year, I believe there's always spiritual battles. There's always spiritual battles going on. But this year, I think pretty much everyone would agree that the spiritual battle is getting very, very intense. Now, I'm not right into politics. I've become more interested in the last few years. And I think a lot of people are in that situation where they've never been interested in politics, but are drawn into it because they're looking at the world and think, what is happening? Now, one of the things that's happening is the right-wing politics is getting very, very much more divided from the left-wing politics. In America, they've got the Democrats and the Republicans on the right and the Democrats on the left. And the Republicans is known under the symbol of the big elephant. And funnily enough, the Democrats are known as a donkey. Now, this divide is getting so intense. Basically, the left, the Democrats in America, are riding on this political, using the virus as a political tool to really drive some points in, and they're getting desperate and they're getting intense. And you have people, that they've got all sorts of things, Black Lives Matters, and Antifa and all these different left-wing organisations, and they're pushing historical statues down. They're burning buildings, they're burning cities, and they're also pushing to defund their police in America. The left, the Democrats, are pushing to remove the funding from the police. And the right are the extreme opposite. They're as I've said in some other videos, the right view things in more of a biblical worldview. So the right are wanting to, to fund the police, obviously, to keep law and order, to keep things in check and have accountability and everything like that. So it's getting very, very divided. So you've got President Trump there, and you've got Sleepy Joe, as President Trump calls him. Now, their style and the way they're dealing with things is total opposite. Absolutely opposite. You've got Biden sort of joining with China and been talking about globalist things and wanting to push the global agenda. And then you've got President Trump, really standing for America. So it's so opposite. The main point I want to say is it's very opposite. So this year, when they have the election, their debate, that'll be funny. When they have the election, and it's going to be intense. The Democrats have tried a whole lot of things to discredit President Trump. Impeachments, trying to blame him for the virus, and they bring up all these scamish things and try to blame him, and pushing statues down and rioting and looters, and then trying to say, Trump, it's on your watch, when they're causing it. They're trying to get him the blame. So it's getting intense, really intense. So this year is going to be very interesting. Now the left, as you probably know, is sort of not a biblical worldview. It's basically driven from, the evil one, the devil. You've got transgender stuff. You've got ideologies, which is, fluid sexuality, where you can just decide if you want to be a male one day or decide if you want to be a female, whatever you want to identify as. They're not going for the biological creation anymore. They're just going by these ideologies, as the left do. They just go by ideas. Because if they haven't got a biblical worldview, if they haven't got the creator and understand the creation, well, that's all they've got, ideas. They just got ideas. They haven't got a framework to work by. And the right, as I've said before, is a biblical worldview. They've got the framework. They love the family. They love doing things properly. There is right and wrong, where the left is sort of trying to say there is no such thing as right and wrong. It can just be whatever you want. So, whatever you think to be right or think to be true becomes truth. So they create their own truth. Where the right generally understand that there's absolute truth, and they endeavour to make laws and to live life and to fit within the framework of that absolute truth of how God's created them. So that there's a very, very intense thing happening this year, and it's all a very spiritual thing. The devil on the left, and God's principles on the right. The big elephant in the Republicans in America against the little funny donkey, the Democrats on the left. Not a biblical worldview, but the elephant is representing a biblical worldview, and they mainly believe in God. But so this is basically God and the devil just warring it out. It seems the principles of God and the Democrats or the devil's side ideas is opposing God's creation and God's way He's designed things, and they're really battling it out. Like they're going to try to. The lefts are always going to be trying to undermine the right to the nth degree. They're going to try all sorts of things. They're desperate, and the reason why they're desperate is because they're losing. It's coming undone, and there seems to be more things happening now. Like even there's if you just look at the police, so I'll just have a bit of a comparison with what's happening with the police in America compared to the police in Australia, and in particular Melbourne. Now the Americans look at their police and they're seeing this push to defund the police. So the Americans generally they're desperate. They want the police not to lose their power. They want the police to be able to do their job. Like, allow them to do their job, please. You know, law and order, please. They're burning places down. They're looting. They're pushing statues down. Like, police, please do your job. You know, that's what they want in America. That's how they feel about the defunding of the police in America. But the police have been stopped from doing that from the left. They're putting more pressure to defund them so they can do anything, you know. But the people that think more biblically or more on the right, or conservative thinking, are saying, no, we've got to have the police doing their job. So this struggle is going on in America, you know, with these sorts of things. Now, I sometimes think just recently that the Americans looking at Australia, if they see something on the news that's from Australia, especially in Melbourne where I am, they must think, gee, that's different what's happening over there. And it is. Because in Australia, we've seen, you know, people, like the police come to people's houses and break their door down and arrest that young guy, James, who it was, just saying 20 minutes up the road from where I live. And an hour up the road from where I live was that pregnant mother that the police came in, and that video went viral around the world, where the police came in and arrested her in her pajamas, pregnant mother, in front of her kids. And there's been many people, even on the streets in Melbourne, that have been wrestled down to the ground and handcuffed, young teenagers. And people had visitors at their, the police visiting their place at night just to arrest them because they put a post on Facebook or something like that they didn't like. That's against the narrative. So the Americans must look at this and think, look what's happening in Melbourne. Look what's happening in Australia. In America, we want our police to do their job, but in Australia, the police are going beyond their job. They're doing too much of a job. They're having overreach. They're arresting people that they shouldn't be arresting. They're breaking down doors to just a normal domestic house to arrest people because they said something on Facebook. So the police in Melbourne have got these extra powers because of the state of disaster that's been declared by dictator Dan Andrews. And now the police are overreaching in Melbourne. And people are getting arrested that, look, it's apparently unlawful arrests, but no one stops them. They've got these extra powers where they can do that. It's basically going by martial law. Now, Americans must look at that and think, that's very different what's happening in Australia. It's very different from America. In Australia, it looks like the cops are the bad ones. But in America, it looks like the cops are the good ones, and we just want them enabled to and funded so they can do their job properly. But in Australia, it seems to be the opposite. So there's a lot of things going on in the world which we don't have to like fully understand what's going on. It could be things like, if the Australian or the Melbourne police force, if it's been corporatised and owned maybe foreignly or something like that, and maybe their master is somewhere else, a foreign master. I don't understand all these things, but wherever they're getting their powers from, you can see that they're not really serving the people. Where in America, they're having their powers taken off them. So the way that the police force in America is owned, or how it's set up, must be very different, because their powers have been taken off them. But in Melbourne, they're getting too much power. So there's these things that, when we're in Australia looking at America, we think, crikey, that's not happening in here. But when they're America looking at Australia at how the police are behaving, they're looking at it the other way around. Blimey, that's not happening here. We've got the opposite problem with the police. So this spiritual war is stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't fully understand. It's going to be intense. Like by the end of the year, a lot more will be revealed, I believe. Now, with the election and then when most likely Trump winning again, as it leads up to that, it's going to be tense. I believe you're going to see lots of incredible, terrible, amazing, just incredible things happen this year. So brace yourself, In Australia, we're going to see some big things go down. I don't know how long Dan Andrews is going to stay in power in Victoria. He's getting pressure back the other way. And the good thing is that more people are speaking out about these things. And because of that, what is official, like the official narrative, shifts. So the left pushes hard, say this is the official narrative, this is the official narrative. But now there's a lot of people on the right speaking up, going the other way. They're pushing the left back. So it's getting intense. The pressure's getting intense. It's like something's going to burst. Now, because the right, people of the right thinking of the biblical worldview, using the biblical principles in their thinking, because they're pushing so hard now and speaking up, the left has to change their tact, right? So a few months ago, what everyone accepted as being the official narrative of this is how it is, well, now it's getting pushed back. This is what I observe. Now, even recently, if you look at the left media, the mainline media, they push that narrative of, the virus is scary, there's all these deaths and everything like this. And then they've just basically laughed off anyone speaking from the right, saying, oh, it's not quite like that. But now I've noticed, and you may have too, because there's been so much push on the right, that the left has centred a bit more, is come back, because they have to, because of that pressure. Because the right's not being silent, it's speaking more and more and more, then the left thinking has to flee. They have to accept it. It gets accepted. So the more people speak from the right, the left is forced to flee their position and centre up a bit, and even start going the other way on the right. Now I've started even noticing this on the news, on the Channel 9, Channel 10 and all these left media news. They're starting to be pushed back because there's so much push from the right, which is good. And that's what we need. This is God's kingdom coming in this arena anyway, in the principles, what's right and wrong, and what's really happening about truth and things like that. So this year is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in Victoria. See how long Dan Andrews lasts. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the election. And I just want to, just for a moment, just speak with on the your biblical worldview of where this is heading. Now, if you're a Christian, you may have a view of what the last days are. Now, if you're a futurist, you might your view might be these are the last days. So all these things are coming in. The vaccines, the marks of the beast, and everything like that. All this is going to come in. It all makes sense. We understand what's happening. It's the last days, and all this drama happens. And then the Lord Jesus Christ returns to take, to Jesus Christ, steps into the government, and the government ends up on his shoulders, because that's where he's coming to rule. But if you're if you're a preterist, got more of a preterist view, you won't view it as being the last days, but you'll just view it as God's kingdom increasing, and there's a spiritual battle. If you've got a historicist view of what's happening now, then you might be more looking at Revelations, the last book in the Bible. You might be looking at the last seal, the last trumpet, and things like that. Whatever way you look at it, you will know that that there's stuff happening. Like with the historicist view, at the last trumpet, the world becomes very communist and things like that, and we can see this control coming in. The left is getting a lot of control over the world, and the monetary system gets totally overhauled and things like that. So whatever view you've got, you will know it's a spiritual battle. And there is hope in this, because even though we're in terrible times, or confusing times, or times that we just do not understand, if you've got a relationship with the God of the Bible, you know how the Bible ends. You know how the book ends. So you know that all this battle will happen, and then something good will come at the end, and that's where our hope is. So that's, as Christians, we don't worry about these things. We get involved in things, but we're not actually at wit's end. We're not full of fear or anything like that, because we know how the book ends. We know if we're on God's side and enlarging God's kingdom and working for Him and preaching His gospel, that we know how it ends. We know that the Lord Jesus Christ returns. We know that the government on planet Earth ultimately ends up God in charge, Jesus Christ in charge of the government, this is a plan that's in the Bible. So it's very interesting. We are at a time now. Something's going to burst. We can see all this political stuff happening. We can see this virus, as well as we can. You got people waking up. They think it's true, this virus. I think that the lockdowns are justified. But then you've got more and more people realizing that, hang on, is this really about a virus? There's this happening in the world. There's this happening in the world. There's all these happening. Is this really about a virus where it's got 99% recovery rate? Where the main people that seem to be dying of it, or mostly 80%, seem to be in nursing homes? Is this really about a virus? And the majority of people that don't die from it, they lock them down and they mask them up and everything like that. You've got to look at it. More and more people wake up and look at it and think, goodness me, I don't understand, but I'm really doubting this is really about a virus. So this is all happening. This is all happening right now. So anyway, guys, that's just a bit of an overall spiel I wanted to do today. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. Anyone you think, your friends or groups or whatever, you think that people might find this interesting. If people are thinking along these lines, share this video and let them help them out a bit. So I'll see you next time, guys. God bless, and don't have fear, because there's nothing to fear if you're thinking on the right and you've repented from the left. Repent from sin. God bless, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.